The next speaker of this year's Maneuver Warfighting Conference served in key leadership positions from lieutenant to general in CAV and armored formations over the last 38 years in the United States Army. He has operational and combat tours in Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Commanding General, United States Army, Training and Doctor in Command, General Paul Funk II.
Well, hello, everybody, and thanks for having me here today. I know I'm the last thing before you guys got to hit the plane and get out of there, so I'll be brief, but I hope I can sum this conference up. First of all, congratulations to the entire Maneuver Warfare Center team. I know that Pat, you and the guys, Steve, Kevin, and Dave, have put on just a tremendous conference the last couple of days. And you know, whether it's talking about leadership development or lethality, it doesn't really matter. Frankly, it all bears down on our leaders, and it all actually kind of comes together full hand. You know, the last speakers have talked a number of times about leadership. And it reminds me that you know, in my own case, I got these fundamentals. One of which is number 39, which leadership is a contact sport, and it requires daily interaction. I've spent all last 2 days down here at Fort Jackson, at the business, and I will tell you, down there where leaders hit the road, and where we develop our drill sergeant cadre. And we developed great NCOs to send back to the FORSCOM teams. We are making huge progress every day. So with that, let me talk a little bit about the leadership in the profession and bring up the first slide, because I want to talk about one of my heroes. I want to talk to you about Captain Nate Rimpf. So Nate, when I was in Afghanistan as a DCG of the Big Red One, Nate was wounded and lost both legs. 8 hours after he was lying in a bed there at Bagram, he looked up at Felix Gedney and me and said, "Hey, don't worry about me. I'll be running when you get home." Well, that wasn't completely the case. The first year that he was wounded in August, and then in October at AUSA of that year, he pedaled a hand bike for 10 miles. This is Nate Rimpf the next year. Why do I talk about Nate Rimpf? Because he's the kind of resilient kid, leader that we have in our organizations. He's about what the organizations you're going to lead, the leader development programs that you're going to develop, and he's the kind of guy leading your formations right now. Captain Nate Rimpf came back to me and he said, "Hey, what do you want to do?" I said, when I met with him at Walter Reed, he said, "Hey, what do you want to do?" He said, "Well, I'd like to go to Duke and get my MBA." So the chairman at the time, some of you may have known, made a phone call to Duke, and Nate Rimpf went to Duke, qualified, and got his MBA. But he retired out of the military. He was actually working as the chairman's junior MA when he got out. So I tell you that story to know that these are the kinds of kids the leader development programs are so important for. Nate Rimpf knew to come to his leaders, knew to ask for help, and more importantly, was prepared to adapt and overcome any obstacle. So let me go to the next slide. So because I'm the training and doctrine guy, I have to show you this one training and doctrine picture. And it talks about the essentials of the Army profession. So TRADOC is launching a campaign starting on the 25th, where we're going to get back and retouch the essence of our profession. We're going to bring in a series of leaders from across industry, from the retired force, from the active force, and we're going to start restudying, rehashing, and reworking at our profession and develop leaders of character using the tenets of this slide and where we're going. It is about understanding these things. In the center of that slide, it does boil down to trust. And so this is the doctrine. It's right out of It's right out of 622, and it's and TRADOC. It's in TRADOC PAM 604 and in ADRP1. So it's in the essence of our business. It's the foundation, and trust is the underpinning of the whole thing. So we can talk about trust, and we can talk about those kinds of things along the way on questions and answers if you want to go. But a couple of guys I trust, if you go to the next slide, a couple of the guys that I trust have talked earlier today. And that was Sergeant Major of the Army Grinston, and yesterday the Sergeant Major, or correction, the Chief of Staff of the Army. Those are guys that I trust. So if we're going to develop leaders of character, I show you this following slide because I think you got to understand you have to have some way in your formations, in your force, to discuss what is important to you and what should drive your organization. And then you've got to be able to talk about it, and you've got to develop programs around it, and then you've got to be able to lead the force where you want it to go. These are just some of mine. I use this to discuss my leader development and my leadership philosophy. But more importantly, it's the underpinnings of my campaign plan, or our campaign plan at TRADOC, so that we can build on the trust that these kinds of things invoke. You know, Sergeant Major Grinston, and I'll talk a little bit later about this, about the squad. He talks about that, but he also talks about leading and caring. We've got to understand that. We've got to keep working through 620. We've got to understand what it takes to make the command culture, and make it work. So as Sergeant Major Grinston talked about, this is my squad, he also develops that we've got to have the underpinnings of doctrine, and we've got to know things about what it is and where we're trying to go. More importantly, we've got to care about one another, about our soldiers, about our leaders, and each other and our families. So we've got to have balance as well. All right, so I show you that picture just to explain kind of where I'm going in the leader development realm. Next, please. I'm kind of an old school guy, and so I think that this slide for me kind of sums up the leader development programs. I think we got to be the leaders that we want to be led by. We got to understand mentorship. We got to drive change. We got to know our squads, because we got to know who can do what to change what it is we're trying to get to. And then we also got to understand our Army values, but we got to do the right thing the right way. And we got, along the way, we got to use character, confidence, commitment, and courage, and candor to drive our process. Let me go to the next slide. I'm trying to get through the brief so we can go to questions as you sum this up. I am sure you have heard through the Sergeant Major of the Army, through the Chief of Staff of the Army, through all the leaders there at Training and Doctrine Command, about the big three that we must stamp out of our ranks. I just had a project inclusion discussion with a variety of folks here at Fort Jackson. I also had it with drill sergeant leaders in the Drill Sergeant Academy earlier today, and started my day with a bunch of brand new soldiers awarded their soldier badge or soldier patch at about 6 o'clock this morning, where we all talked about the soldier creed and really renewed our oath and faith in our great Army. But these things break trust, and we got to get after these. I can't emphasize that enough. You've all seen Sergeant Major Grinston's "This is my squad," what it is, the triangle. This is how we got to take care of it. In the center of this is the soldier, but outside are the leaders. And if we're developing leader development programs, we've got to develop them with an eye towards treating each other with dignity and respect, and using the 8-step training model, for example, as a way to build trust back into our process. In the FORSCOM world, General Garrett and his team have actually started a foundational training day, or foundational readiness day, where they're going after what used to be the the characteristics of payday activities or that were focused on counseling, performance enhancement, etc. And I think at the basic training and BOLIC level, we're going to tackle those foundational training efforts so that it's not foreign to the young kids as they come in. We're going to actually transition this program into TRADOC as well from a broader perspective. Go to the next one, please. So all of us have squads. This happens to be mine. You can see the people that surround me from a day-to-day purpose. I'm pretty lucky to do the things we're doing in training a doctor command. But I want to talk about the guy in the suit at the bottom. So that's a guy named Greg. Greg has a big job that has multiple facets to it, where he has to take world-class level athletes and coaches and apply COVID environment standards to them. And he has to entertain all kinds of different programs and procedures. He's got a program called Athletes for Life. But he also came to see our Army. And the reason I'm telling you this story is this is how important our information campaigns need to be and how you can help yourself around your various camps, posts, and stations. So we were driving him around. We were at Fort Jackson, and we're driving around, and he's looking all over the place. And what's he looking for? So I finally asked him, I said, hey, what are you looking for? And what he was looking for was the World War II wood barracks. He was looking for all the soldiers laying around, not all of them with their hats on backwards, because he was envisioning stripes. And then he was talking about the guys in the Smokey the Bear hats and saying, where are the crazy people that yell at everybody every day? So I'm telling you this for a reason. One is, this guy, by the way, happens to be the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. And he was blown away by the talent, the resources, the programs, and the commitment that our units and our soldiers show every day. He had no idea. His frame of reference was actually the movie Stripes. Okay, so why am I talking to you about this as you develop your leader development programs? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if your leader development program does not involve something to do with the information environment and how you operate in it and how you actually get after it, you will miss out. You need to explore how your squad looks at your camp, post, and station, your developmental programs, your units, and your own personal space. You need to explore that. You need to understand that, because right now we do not, and we do not know how to operate very well in the information space. One of the guys that's is actually doing very well at this is Pat Donahoe, who's there and could probably talk and answer some of the questions about this. Because I got to tell you guys, if we're going to dominate in the future, in the 21st century, whether it be from a sessions lens or through trying to apply our will or oppose our will on our adversaries, we first have to compete. And when you compete, you have to compete in the information environment. There is no other way. There is no other way. And even if you're in conflict, you have to compete in the information environment. So that's my big takeaway on our leader development programs and where we're trying to get to. You know, I think you saw General Beagle's video on fear, and he's exactly right. We can't be afraid to operate in the information environment. We got to build the trust necessary to apply some sort of decent reasoning to how it is we're operating there. We got to look for opportunity to tell our story in a way that is compelling to those around us. You know, General Rainey talked about leader development. And why leader development? Because we have two strengths, and it is our people. And we fight the American way. We don't fight in attrition-based warfare. One of the ways to get to a position of advantage is in the information sphere. And then how do you get after all these misbehaviors, the big five, big three, and all those things? And Jim Rainey hit it right. We do it the same way through leaders and leadership. And we got to give them the time to get that done. And then the chief and the secretary are both transitioning to people first. And the chief's always been there, but I think the secretary's coming that way too. And he's talking about inspired leadership, building cohesive teams, and then understanding that the soldier, no matter the modernization, how much we get or where we go, that will matter some, but it's not going to matter completely. What it matters is that we raise the right generation to lead the right ways, to do the things, to be the leaders we want to be led by, to know their squads, and then to do the right things the right way. So that's a brief summary. Go to the last slide there. Finally, I'll tell you the reason I don't show a lot of equipment and a lot of things like that, because the Army's about our people. It is our people. General Abrams' father said that first. The Army's a people business. So with that, in looks like 17 minutes or less, I now yield the floor to any questions that are out there. Back to you, Pat.
Sir, this is Colonel Chris Budahas, Chief of Staff down in Fort Benning. How do you read this station?
Chris, I've been reading your books for years. How are you doing, brother?
Sir, loud and clear. Doing great, sir. Hey, sir, you mentioned project inclusion. We got a couple questions from the field. Any advice from you on for leaders as they prepare and execute project inclusion small group discussions?
Yeah, first of all, for the leaders themselves, I would rehearse this. I would get into, there are certain elements of project inclusion that we need to get after. But I would get in and practice a little bit. And I would talk to your EO, and I would talk to because you want to know what's being said, what you're hearing. I would look into your information sources so you know the topics at hand. And then when I approach it, I would be the one that says, okay, I'm here to listen. I will take these back. Don't expect a big response initially. And then from there, we can all move forward together. That's what I would do. I would rehearse that. Then I would listen. I think Jim Rainey said this best. God gives you 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should use them proportionally. Over.
Yes, sir. Sir, a couple questions on the ACFT. Sir, how would you like to see the ACFT change our warfighting culture for positive through this?
Frankly, it's already doing that. And the Army Combat Fitness Test, hey, listen, the people in this room are out there in the ether world. The decision is made. We're doing it. So how would I like to see it change? I want to see it change the entire culture of fitness. I want us to recognize that this is about being prepared for combat operation in really tough conditions, and that we got to change the way we do these kinds of things to reduce injuries, to increase stamina, and really focus on endurance. Over.
Thank you, sir. A couple questions on COVID. Sir, how has the emergence of COVID-19 impacted TRADOC and our mission?
Oh my God. So COVID has changed everything we do. We changed over 600 courses in the last 5 months. It's changed our entire way of recruiting. Frankly, and we're going to roll this out formally here pretty soon, but frankly, the Army's going to be the only service that makes its end strength. And we're going to do it with the highest quality we've ever had, because we recognized early on that the environment was changing. It's changed how we interact with one another. It hasn't all been roses, okay? I think we're a bit more isolated than we were before, where we have a tendency as an Army to forget when we isolate people. We got to remember to care enough to go back and check on them, make sure they're getting the proper medical help, the proper nutrition, the proper exercise, and somebody's looking out for them. I think it's changed the entire every POI, because, for example, just at basic training, we went from immersing kids into the environment right away, and then breaking them down and then building them up. Instead, we had to take that 14-day control monitoring process, and what we call yellow phase, or what we're really going to is spring training. And now we've got a playbook, which is our 600-. No, it's not 620. I can't remember what the doggone. I looked at it today, but I can't remember. I think it's Lonnie Hibbert could tell us what it is. 600-4. Anyway, it's our Bible of what we're going to do, what you're expected to know at basic combat training. It's also got our warrior tests and battle drills in it. So we're applying that in the first 14 days of this process. We're also bringing in the SHARP training. We're bringing in the racism and extremism training, and we're working our way through the sexual assault, sexual harassment training as well. And it's allowing us to focus on those issues earlier on and faster in the process, which I think in the long run is going to have a big change. Over.
Sir, thank you very much. Sir, the next question, there's a couple of questions about assessments, BCAP and CCAP. What role will assessments play in modernizing how the Army manages talent and develops leaders?
Well, I think we're going to get a better, some would say a better product. I think that's, we'll see, because I think the folks that did the initial BCAP are going to go into command this summer, or it might even be next summer. It's coming up now for this cycle anyway. And then CCAP, I think it's going to cause us to really look at see what expertise is out there. So I think assessments are a good thing. I think that why we had a good process before, you know what, if we can save, say if we can prevent 600 kids from getting out of the Army because of bad leadership, or you know, what we used to call micromanagement, or what we used to call toxic leadership, and we can prevent that by rooting those people out early in the process, I'm all for it.
Sir, a number of folks want to know, what books are you reading at this time and why?
I just finished reading General Dempsey's newest book, and it was fantastic. The other one I'm reading now is actually, if you hadn't asked me, I'd know, but I actually read one about finance. As I work my way through how Blackstone, I can't remember, the company's called Blackstone, but how it was formed is fascinating. So that's where I am right now.
Sir, thank you very much for your presentation. Sir, any final comments?
Hey, be no do, man. Be the leaders you want to be led by. Know your squads and do the right things the right way. We got, this is challenging times, but they're not impossible. The Army is always led in social change. It's always led the nation. The nation needs it to lead it now. And so it's Army, the Army's never let our nation down, and it won't in this regard either. We need to talk to one another. We need to devise good plans that have a chance to work, which are the only kind that can. And then finally, we got to recognize that in this time and at this place right now, we got to make a difference in our nation. So thanks for your attention today. I'm glad you hope you had a great conference, and thanks again for everything you're doing every day. Victory truly does start here at TRADOC.
Sir, thank you very much.
We'll see you, Chris.
That's it. That's Man WarCon 2020. Really different format this year. Gave us actually some great opportunities in the age of COVID to bring in, leaders like Lieutenant General Eyre, the commander of the Canadian Army, bringing in General Mick Ryan all the way from Australia, right? That was phenomenal, right? And we had yesterday, we had General Van Wagenen from the UK chiming in from the ARC, as well as bringing in General LaCamera from the Pacific. And so a great opportunity for us to broaden our group of speakers, as well as provide disparate views of the challenges we face, both in delivering lethality and developing leaders for the future. So I appreciate those who stood with us. We're also in the process of, we're gonna pull all of these presentations, and we're gonna put them on the Facebook, or I'm sorry, on the YouTube channel that Fort Benning maintains. Let me just kind of capture a couple, I think, some of the key pieces that came out of these past 2 days, right? So you heard this drumbeat of, we've got to discipline ourselves to create the time required to train to mastery, but also the time that we can then focus on leader development. So this ability for us to control our calendars, to give predictability, be able to protect time to both train and leader develop, right? Challenges for all of us all the time, but those will be necessary. You know, if we're going to meet the chief's guidance of winning matters and General Garrett's winning at the point of contact, we've got to use every minute we can spare to get after leader development and training to mastery. Right? And so I'd also tell us we've got to look at how we create leaders who lead with empathy. More important every day as we deal with the challenges of suicide in our ranks, as we deal with the challenges of sexual assault in our formations, and we deal with the challenges of racism and extremism. You know, leaders have to be connected to their formations, and you heard it from Sergeant Major of the Army today, right? I mean, this is my squad. We all have our squad, and so we've got to be positively intrusive with the folks that we serve with, to ensure that we can be there when they need us, and we can ensure that we know them well enough to know when they've got an issue that we can help them with. And we saw that, I think, time and time again through the presentations over the past 2 days. And this constant coming back to the profession, right? The profession as the root of our strength, right? The profession that empowers leaders to lead authentically and lead with candor and lead with care and empathy, right? Rooted in the profession itself. And so I would just ask you, as we all come back to this requirement that we have to live up to what the profession calls us to do, we must constantly come back to that. I really enjoyed General Ryan's description of leadership in the cognitive age, and his discussion of this uncertain future, but one that is going to be changing at an incredible rate. And the only thing we can do to prepare for that is this lifelong endeavor to learn. You heard it from General Rainey as well, right? You know, a career length of assessments and development as we look at both our non-commissioned officers and our officers. Our responsibility, each and every one of us, is to be engaged in our own self-development. But we as the profession must ensure that we lay out the standards and the requirements that we have for development and for education and training. And so, you know, again, you gotta love, you know, we train, we test, and that gives us the trust under which Mission Command is operated on, right? And so that goes back to General Rainey's comments. So again, and then we had two chiefs of staff of the Army talk to us, right? So we had our own, General McConville, and we had the commander of the Canadian Army. And I think what we saw there was this real importance of our ability to operate with allies and partners. As General Ayer said, hey, the Canadian Army's never going anywhere by themselves. By the way, that's the history of the United States Army. We don't go anywhere by ourselves either. And the future will be the same. When we are engaged globally, we will be engaged with partners and allies. And so we need to train to that. We need to find the value there, and we need to maximize what that gives us. That truly is one of the great asymmetric strengths of the United States. we have friends, allies, and partners across the globe. Our two major adversaries, they do not have that, and they envy us for what we have. But that requires work. Goes back to General McConville's pitch about the value of international military education and training. Guess what? Our two international officers that we saw present, Mick Ryan and General Ayer, spent 2 years together in the early 2000s at Quantico, Virginia, at the United States Marine Corps schooling there. Right? That's the value of our international military and education training, because it really does set the stage for us to compete at advantage with our adversaries. So hey, just to wrap up, I'd like to thank everybody who presented, from the chief to the sergeant major of the Army to Sergeant Major Schmidt to Van Wagenen and Biggs who chimed in, but to General Garrett, General LaCamera, and then General Funk giving us the wrap up today, and of course my boss, Lieutenant General Rainey, who was really awesome. And the team here at Benning, gave them a problem that they had never wrestled with before. How to run a worldwide distributed conference, completely different than what we've ever done. And I will tell you, this is the best virtual maneuver conference that's ever been put on. What a great team. So thanks to everybody. One force, one fight.